Hello and welcome to your last U.S. Constitution video. This video is going to discuss 4, 5, 6, and 7 of our articles. So let's get to it. Starting off with Article 4. This article deals with the relationship among the states and also the relationship between the states and the federal government. So keep in mind that we have a federal system. So we have a division of power between the state governments and the federal governments. There's certain things that the state governments can do, certain things that the federal government can do. So the first clause in Article 4 is called the Privileges and Immunities of Citizens Clause. Now, if you are immune to something, that means that you can't catch it, okay? If you have a privilege to something, then you're treated a certain way. So Clause 1 of Article 4 basically tells us that every citizen has to be treated the same in every state, okay? So if I go from Missouri to Hawaii, people in Hawaii, the state government of Hawaii, can't treat me any differently because I'm from Missouri, okay? We'll give some examples of that in class. The next one is the Full Faith and Credit Clause. And this basically tells us that every state has to give full faith and credit to every other state. So another way to say that is they have to honor the acts, laws, court proceedings, records of every state, okay? So if you have a, if you have a marriage license in Missouri, my husband and I got married in Missouri. So if we move to Hawaii, then my husband and I are still recognized as being married, even though we're not still in Missouri. I really want to go to Hawaii, can you tell? Anyway, next, extradition. So to extradite someone means to bring them back to a specific state. So let's say that you commit a crime in Missouri and then you flee to, we won't say Hawaii, we'll say Texas. Okay, so you commit your crime, you run to Texas. Okay, once you get to Texas, you're not free and clear. Texas has to extradite you. They have to send you back to Missouri once they catch you. So you can be charged with the crime, so you can be given your day in court and your chance to defend yourself, okay? Now, Article 4, Section 3 only works within the United States. So if you commit a crime and you flee and you somehow leave the country, other countries don't necessarily have to extradite you back to the United States unless they have an agreement with our government to do so. The last clause of Article 4 deals with the admission of new states and territories. So we often hear this discussion, when are we going to have another state? When is Puerto Rico finally going to become the 51st state? Well, that all depends on a few different things. So if we want to admit a new state into the Union, that state has to basically draft a constitution. They have to petition Congress to ask Congress to allow them to gain statehood, okay? So, and the same goes for territories. If we want to acquire new territories, Congress has to give consent, basically, to acquire those territories. Article 5 deals with amending the Constitution, and the fact that we have only amended our Constitution 27 times over the course of 200-something years that we've been a country, or that we've been under the Constitution, kind of tells you a little bit about the process, okay? It's a challenging process. So I'm going to switch over here to this new screen. And what you see here are the methods of proposing and ratifying constitutional amendments. And I will put this on our hyperdoc, that way you have that to reference, so you don't need to worry about recreating this in your notes. So there are two ways that we can propose an amendment to our Constitution. You can do so by 2/3 of each House of Congress saying, hey, I think we've got a good idea for an amendment. Or you can have Congress call a constitutional convention at the request of 2/3 of the states. Okay, so that's one way. Those are two ways that you can propose an amendment. The two ways to ratify an amendment are that they can either be ratified by 3/4 of the states in their legislative branches. So like our General Assembly in Missouri is our legislative branch, or it can be ratified by 3/4 of the states in special conventions to ratify an amendment. Now, we've used the first method of ratifying and the first method of proposing and the first method of ratifying 26 out of 27 times in our country's history. We have used the first method of proposing and the second method of ratifying one time, and that was to ratify the 21st Amendment, which repealed the Prohibition Amendment. We have never used this first method of proposing an amendment to the Constitution, but it's there if we need it. All right, so jumping back over here to, and we talked about that, let's go to Article 6. Article 6 deals with the supremacy of national law. So we all know that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So any law that any state passes has to be in accordance with the Constitution. And theoretically, if it's not in accordance with the Constitution, then that law is null and void. And the last article deals with ratification of the Constitution. And this last article is one that we don't really focus a whole lot anymore because we don't really need it because the Constitution's already been ratified. But ratification of the Constitution required 3/4 of the 13 states to approve it before it actually went into effect. And that is all I have for you on the organization of the Constitution. If you have any questions, let me know.